Ever get that feeling?
Yeah.
Like you walk out of a meeting or maybe just finish scrolling through, your news feed and all of a sudden you're just wiped out,
Oh, yeah.
totally drained. It's like we're sponges,
Yeah.
right? Soaking up every bit of energy around us, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially if you're someone who considers themselves a light worker,
Right.
someone who's really, sensitive to the energy of others, it can be especially overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So today we're diving into some fascinating stuff about protecting your energy, even if you aren't, fully bought into all the new age stuff.
Okay.
Think of it like energetic hygiene.
I love that analogy. Yeah, I think it's so important because people get really caught up in the kind of esoteric side of things, and they forget that at its core, this is really about practical self-care skills. It's
Right.
like managing your time or your finances.
Exactly.
It's just another aspect of taking care of yourself.
Okay, so let's get into the how-to.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
this source talks about setting up almost like a shield, like a protective bubble around yourself.
Okay.
One of the things they suggest is a morning visualization where you imagine yourself surrounded by this white or golden light.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you've seen people use?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've worked with a lot of clients who have found that to be incredibly helpful. And you know what's so interesting about it is that even if you don't necessarily believe in literal energy fields,
Yeah.
the very act of visualizing that protection can have a powerful effect on your mindset.
That's interesting.
Because it's really about priming your mind to be more aware of your own energy and to set boundaries throughout the day.
So it's almost like setting an intention to be more mindful
Exactly.
of what you're letting in,
Mm-hmm.
both physically and emotionally.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so the source also mentions something called cord-cutting meditation.
Yes.
It sounds a little intense. What's that all about?
Yeah, cord cutting is a really powerful technique for releasing energy that's no longer serving you. So, let's say you have a really difficult interaction with a colleague or, someone in your personal life,
Right.
and you just keep replaying that conversation over and over in your head,
Oh, for sure.
They're kind of energetically tied to that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And cord cutting is a way to visualize cutting those ties, releasing that energy and reclaiming your power. So there's this great quote from the source that says, quote, "When we cut the cords that bind us to past hurts or negative energies, we reclaim our power and create space for healing and growth."
I like that.
Yeah,
And I have to say, I've been experimenting with this myself, and I've been surprised by how much lighter I feel after doing it.
absolutely. It's amazing how much we carry around with us, without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And speaking of feeling lighter, the source talks about using crystals for protection.
Yes.
This is something I've always been curious about, but honestly never really understood.
Sure. Well, crystals are believed to have different energetic properties, and certain crystals are particularly helpful for protection. Like black tourmaline, for example, is often used to ward off negativity from other people.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're someone who feels drained after meetings or social gatherings,
Yeah.
carrying a piece of black tourmaline in your pocket can help create a sense of energetic boundary.
It's like a little energetic bodyguard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I always kind of thought of crystals as being more decorative,
Yeah.
but I can see how having something tangible
Right.
can really enhance that sense of, I'm creating this protection around myself.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that even if you don't necessarily buy into all the, metaphysical properties of crystals, they can still act as a really powerful physical reminder
That's a good point.
of your intention to protect your energy.
It's like a visual cue.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've got morning visualizations, cord-cutting crystals.
Mhm.
What are some other things that people can incorporate into their daily routine?
Something as simple as a salt bath can be incredibly restorative.
Oh, yeah.
Salt has been used for centuries for purification,
Right.
both physically and energetically. And it's a great way to cleanse yourself of any stagnant or negative energy that you might have picked up throughout the day.
I'm a big fan of salt baths.
Me too.
It always just feels like a reset button,
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's one more topic from this source that I'm a little hesitant to bring up.
Okay.
But it feels important. They talk about energy vampires.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a little dramatic, but I think we've all encountered people who just leave us feeling totally depleted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, the source describes energy vampires as people who unconsciously drain others' energy.
Okay.
So, they might dominate conversations, they might be overly negative, or they might constantly seek attention and validation.
Oh, yeah, the type.
Right. And it's not that they're intentionally trying to harm you, but their energy can be very demanding.
So how do we deal with these energy vampires without, becoming a hermit.
Right. Well, one of the most important things is to set really clear boundaries. It's okay to limit your time with these individuals, to politely excuse yourself from conversations that are becoming draining, and to say no to requests that feel overwhelming.
That's such a good point about boundaries.
Yeah.
It's not about cutting people out of our lives,
Right.
but it's about being mindful of how much we allow ourselves to be exposed to their energy.
Exactly.
So the source also talks about visualizing a mirror shield
Yeah.
to kind of reflect negative energy back to the sender. Does that really work?
It's interesting because I think there's a tendency to want to block or deflect negative energy, but what we resist often persists. So the idea with a mirror shield is not about pushing back against the energy, but more about creating a neutral barrier.
Okay.
So imagine a mirror reflecting light. It doesn't absorb the light, it simply redirects it.
That's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been so insightful.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered so much ground from morning visualizations to dealing with these energy vampires.
Absolutely.
Is there one key takeaway that you hope listeners walk away with?
I think the most important thing is to remember that protecting your energy is a form of self-care.
Mm.
It's not selfish. It's essential for our well-being, and it allows us to show up more fully for ourselves and for others.
I love that.
Hmm.
So for our listeners out there, what one small change will you make this week to be more mindful of your energy? Will it be a morning visualization, setting a boundary with a draining person, maybe treating yourself to a restorative salt bath?
Yeah.
Remember, even the smallest step can make a big difference.